I'll just keep this very, very, very simple.
Okay.
So I'm just going to keep this very simple. Uh, TCHC has historically been charged large sum fees for false fire alarms. In 2020, TCHC incurred 3.9 million in false fire alarm fees. That is going to you know, with 29%, 1.13 million of all fees in their top 20 buildings. That's a lot of fire alarms, and this is done deliberately. The fire alarms are being used to pad the fire budget, the police budget, and the CSU budget. They are perfectly aware that putting CCTV cameras is a much cheaper option than constantly responding to these false fire alarm calls. But this is a strategy that they use to they have these criminals break the law. They institute catch and release policies to ensure that criminals can do whatever the hell they want to in the city of Toronto, and they face no consequences. And the fire alarms is no exception, and it's one example. The fire alarms are being used at 4301 Kingston Road. The fire alarms are being used to harass my husband and I. My husband was my then common law partner when we moved in on March 2024, 2021. Ironically, when they had a meeting about fire alarms, and they identified the buildings with the top 20 buildings with the highest fire alarm incidents, and 4301 Kingston happened to be one of those buildings. So we move in 2021. So in 2019, 4301 Kingston has 60 fire alarms, and has incurred $85,000 in fees. In 2020, that number went down to 39 fire alarms right here. 39 fire alarms, 4301 Kingston, and with a $56,000 in fees. Since we moved in to 4301 Kingston, that number has shot up considerably. So, I mean, our building is number one. I'm sure is number one for fire alarms, and I did the math, and they have occurred over $260,000 so far, just in the last few months of fire alarm fees. That is a far cry from any of the most offending buildings in 2019 and 2020. Now, why is that? When my I'll backtrack to the Roehampton where my husband and I were victims of a terrible smear campaign and campaign of harassment and discrimination by both the staff and the clients at the Roehampton, who all operate as part of a criminal network, and they operate as part of an extensive drug trafficking network, an informant network, and they engage in psyops as well as economic and political warfare. And that's not just against myself and my husband, but against Canada as a whole as well. Now, so $3.93 million in false fire alarm charges, that ends up in somebody's pocket. You know, that's a lot of fire alarms. The only way that this could go on is if it were allowed to go on. So now I'm going to fast forward to 2021. TCHC has incurred $787,155 in false fire alarm fees, resulting from 541 false fire alarm calls. In partnership with Toronto Fire Services, TCHC has established an interdisciplinary task group comprised of members of operations and fire life safety. The task group will revisit properties with high prevalence of false fire alarms and leverage data to implement targeted initiatives, which includes physical prevention and mitigation measures, as well as the group will support the development of a risk-based plan to address the three streams of false fire alarms, malicious, nuisance, and elevator non-emergencies, building on previous measures that are currently or have been previously implemented. Well, we know that the fire alarms at 4301 Kingston are being used to harass my husband and I specifically. The fire alarms increased exponentially after we got married, which because the city refused to put my husband on the lease, for discriminatory reasons, and because they don't want two men sharing a one bedroom. You know, it's just, despite all of the virtue signaling that TCHC does, they do not want two men sharing one bedroom, especially us, because you know we're hep to the corruption. We're not criminals. So, I mean, they let the criminals pull the fire alarm, spray paint graffiti on the walls, destroy property, threaten people, set fires. But my husband and I are the ones who have the problem. We're the ones who are in trouble with management and administration, and they're trying to remove our RGI. They're trying to force an eviction on us. And of course, we have a lawsuit, and it's an open and shut case, really. It's just a matter of waiting for the hearing date. Um, and I mean, it's a very easy win. They're blatantly discriminating against us. They're running a criminal enterprise. And I mean, this is all to pad, but they want criminals in the buildings so that they can pad budgets. And they use criminals. The fire, the police, the CSU, and all the city services deliberately sabotage their own social programs in order to and create crime in order to justify uh, more bigger budgets, which of course are paid for with printed money, and that is the real cause of inflation, as well as the corporate greed. And these criminals have all their needs taken care of. Well, everyday hardworking Canadians are doing without. And families are starving, and while the fire alarm is being pulled and money is being flushed, money is flowing into the pockets of corrupt officials and city workers and administrators and managers, as well as, padded salaries for police, fire, CSU, all of whom are paid to look the other way. There's the veil of silence. And, and the fire department even asked for information as to who was doing it. And of course, everybody knows who's doing it in this building. They're friends with the police. They're friends with the management. They're friends with security. You know, they're friends with the social worker, the same social workers who are just and managers and administrators who are discriminating against us and who we're suing. And I mean, this is all one big racket. I mean, this is a big scandal for the city. Most people, normal people, don't pull the fire alarm. It just doesn't work that way. So, I mean, you know, um, obviously criminals are getting preferential treatment in the city, and we have a serious corruption problem. The mayor wanted, is the John Tory is crying with, begging for $1.5 billion, and cities pissing away money on harassment and harassing a same-gendered couple. I mean, if this is the real Toronto, people, this is the real Toronto, and I mean, I've been working tirelessly to help get the message out, because it's the only way that my husband and I have been able to get any services is through public shaming of the city. They didn't even want to give us housing, and in reality, they didn't. I mean, they treat us like we're squatters here, and we have absolutely no rights. And this is just, I mean, the numbers don't lie. So you'll see my YouTube channel. It's obviously harassment. I mean, I even have videos of the firemen laughing. They think this is hilarious. They all think that this is a big joke. The stress has damaged my health. It's damaged my husband's health, and you know, it's been a nightmare since we've moved into 4301 Kingston. It's been an absolute nightmare. Uh, TCHC are horrible. They're horrible. They're criminals, bigots, and and the consequences for the rest of the country if this is going if this is if they feel so free to do this with the fire alarms, god knows what else these leaders and these corporations and these workers are getting up to. The prognosis for this country is not good if this is allowed to continue. So I'm sharing this video. You know, if they have an interdisciplinary team and the fire department, with the fire department and safety people and operations, and the fire alarms are increasing after the formation of the meeting on the 24th and after the interdisciplinary team has been implemented, then the only conclusion is that they're behind it. I mean, the CCTV cameras would stop these criminals dead in their tracks, but they refuse to put them in the hallways because they want the fire alarm to be pulled. And they're this is how they embezzle money, and this is a complex embezzlement. This is how they're able to pad budgets in order to justify salaries for their criminal friends. They create incidents like they use criminals that are informants to create crime, to create statistics, which they can go to the city budget and say, I need $1 billion. Now next year, now the next year comes. Oh, well, the incidents have increased. I need 1.1 billion, then 1.2 billion, then next year it'll be 1.3 billion because, oh, we need more money because there's more crime. You know, do you understand the pattern here? And they're trying to, I see this, my husband sees this, and I mean, they're trying to smear us and silence us. They don't want this getting out, but it's too late. The numbers are there. The my YouTube channel, my Twitter doesn't lie. The policy clips that I have for the RGI administration manual and the TCHC and occupancy standards and human rights code, they don't lie. So I mean, legally speaking, we're in the right, and our case is open and shut. So I just, this is just, you know,